Okay, we're going to move swiftly on now. Obviously, all these positions are very dear to our hearts, but one that is specifically quite dear to some of the production team's hearts this evening is what's going to happen with the position of media next year. We've got one candidate lined up for that, and we're going to have a little look at her manifesto points. This is what Helen Crossley had to say.
Hi, I'm Helen, and I'm running for your next head of media. I've been here for 3 years now, and I've been heavily involved in LSUTV, Label and LCR. I started off in the media centre through a huge live broadcast of a Barbarians rugby game, which was great because I absolutely love rugby. Since then, I've gone on to be LSUTV Head of Factual Production, which has seen me oversee all of our factual shows. My manifesto is based around 5 main points. For cross-platforming, I want to introduce a new member of Media Senate, a Head of Content, who will oversee all of our news, heads of sport, etc. For consumption, I want to increase the consumption of LS media as a whole. This year, we've really raised the level of the standard of media that we've put out there, so I want to be able to see everyone across campus consuming our media. For Hall Media, I want to make Hall Media a recognised section of LS media. I want to use part of our media budget to provide them with their own equipment and software so they can really produce some excellent work for your halls. For industry links, I want us to work with the Careers and Employability Centre to offer placements and work experience for members of the Media Centre. Finally, for Loop, I want to see a marketing campaign be produced to increase the profile of Loop across campus, increasing their number of volunteers and the amount of work that they receive.
Give it up for Helen Crossley! Darling, how are we doing? How are you feeling about this evening? Yeah?
Nervous, but
Campaigning going well to begin with?
yeah, really well, thank you. Tired a little bit already after day 2, but we're getting there.
Good stuff. And to my right, the current head of media, Miss Natasha Cox.
Hello.
Tash, how do you feel? This is sort of like the last stretch home now for you. How do you feel about it?
Well, not quite yet, Connor.
Not
It's all
quite
right.
yet, nearly there.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. Fantastic few months that we've really had in media. It's been absolutely brilliant. And if Helen gets the position, I think she'll do an absolutely fantastic job and carry on all the strengths that we've done so far this year.
Fantastic. Thank you, girls. We're going to kick-start this debate right now. So, Mr. Linsky, what have we got from the audience?
Absolutely, Connor. Well, close to our hearts, this one, isn't it? I'm sure it is for you at home as well. Do tweet us in using the hashtag #TheBubbleDebate to put your questions to Helen. We've already got some anticipation in the audience forward to this one, and Richard Thompson down here has a question for Helen. Richard.
Hi Helen. Over the year I approached Tash with getting LCR to broadcast Subversion Live and it went down as a massive hit. Is that something you want to pursue again, maybe more frequently? And other inter-union societies doing lots of different displays, are you going to be pushing that quite hard as well?
OK, so obviously it's quite close to the gentleman's heart, Subversion. Is something branching out for media, is that something that you think is quite a priority?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you said, if it was really popular, then it's definitely something that we'd look to do more. I mean, obviously, the Media Centre at the minute has an awful lot on. We have a lot of things going on, but then working with societies, working with other sections of the union is really important as well for both the societies that we're working with and media as well to increase our consumption across campus. So I think it would be really important to carry on doing things like that, yeah.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jago, obviously you've been quite fundamental to media over your time at Loughborough. Helen said that she wants to branch out. Obviously, you know, we have to hit a very varied target audience here on campus. How important do you think that is for Helen to do?
It's absolutely crucial, and my question leads quite nicely into that, Connor. It's about marketing, and we've seen, I think, section heads, not just media, year on year talk about marketing and how they want to get out to more students, and Helen has talked about using social media and promotional videos, all of which we do already. My question to anyone who says marketing is important is how? So social media is lazy, promotional videos are already done. How are you going to market the Media Centre?
So, Helen, we know what needs to be done. How are we going to do it next year?
I think working with a head of marketing and then branching out to the marketing heads of sections in each of the sections is really important, and giving them specific training from maybe sort of the business department, anyone that we can get involved from the union that is key in marketing, to give them sort of training on how they can develop their skills. I mean, people like, we've got Don Con here on the firing panel who's had a huge range of experience in marketing. I mean, people like him are vital to volunteers as well, developing marketing sections.
But Helen, that you're talking about the structure of marketing there. That's already in place. How are you going to market media? How are you going to market the great output across Label, LSUTV, and LCR? What are your strategies for doing that?
Well, like you've already mentioned, I think social media, you say it's lazy, but I think it's key. The number of Loughborough students that consume social media, that are on social media, I mean, probably every single person in this room checks their Facebook every day, checks their Twitter. It's just probably the easiest way to get media out there. And you say it's lazy, but it works.
Surely, Jacob, that social media is always an untouched surface. I mean, it's growing constantly, and if Helen's willing to put her priorities on that, is that the right answer?
Well, absolutely, and I think social media is absolutely crucial. We've seen Facebook sort of watered down in the last couple of years because as they've tried to monetise it. So say you've got a Facebook page with 1,000 likes, only 200 people out of that Facebook page actually see your post. So would Helen be willing to invest in, say, Facebook advertising to bump that up? How are you planning to interact on Twitter? It's all too easy to post tweets, to post things on Facebook. That's fine, that works, yes. But how to make those real big gains? How are you going to use Twitter? Would you use software to sort of get target specific people? My point is that social media is fundamental to marketing, but it's all too lazy just to say I'm going to spam Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm no expert on social media. I mean, I'm fairly reliable on using it myself, but I mean, we have an excellent marketing department here at Loughborough in the Students' Union that I'm sure have a whole range of ideas on how we can introduce like advanced social media. I'm sure they know what software we can use, and if they're willing to let us know what to do, then I'd be more than willing to invest in things like that, I think.
Tash, how have you found using something like social media as fundamental to the Media Centre this year? And marketing as a whole, in fact?
I'd say marketing as a whole is quite a tricky one, actually, in media at the moment. We have a head of marketing, which they've touched on slightly, and the job's a little bit wishy-washy. We've tried to look to see how we can develop that, and, we haven't really been able to put anything concrete down yet as such. But I think with marketing, it really needs to be revamped. There needs to be some new, fresh ideas coming in, and that can only really be done by kind of a big sit-down chat with a lot of people, a lot of ideas, fresh, innovative ideas coming through. Social media is key. It really is key currently because of how hyped it is, how everyone uses it, like Helen said. But similarly, again, it is lazy by just spamming it everywhere. So I really think it's fresh, innovative ideas that need to be kind of looked at.
Good stuff. Food for thought. Mr. Linsky, another question, please.
Yeah, Jago Pearson there questioning the usefulness of social media. One way you can use social media is to get in touch with us here in the studio this evening using the hashtag #TheBubbleDebate. Put your questions to our candidates before us this evening. Now, we do have another question. It's from George Mostyn. You're an active member of the Media Centre. I'm sure you're going to have a good question for Helen prepared.
I am indeed. As you said, they call me Buzz as an affectionate name, and it means that I'm involved with everything from media, rag, and especially halls, which I got involved with quite a lot. One of your manifesto points is to make halls an independent section within the Media Centre. However, the lack of input from halls into Loughborough students' media output has reduced and is nearly non-apparent in some cases. How are you going to improve halls' output towards LSU media before making it an independent section?
Mr. Mostyn seemingly throwing his own campaign out there. Helen, what do you have to say to him?
Well, I agree with what you say. I think Hall Media is a relatively new section of LS Media. It is still in its sort of developing stages, and there is still progress to be made there. Hall Media is one of my key manifesto points because I do think it is really important to the Media Centre. I'd really like to see Hall Media reps being given specific training on specific equipment so that they can get involved in the Media Centre further. If we give them the skills to use then in the Media Centre as a whole, I think that would be beneficial to both the Hall Media reps and the Media Centre as a whole.
George, is that a good response?
I think so, but in terms of things like the chair of Hall Media setting challenges for hall reps, it's a great way to obviously earn points for your hall, but there's no conversion and transfer between people getting this experience in halls and then coming to work for maybe a committee on LS Media in the following year. How are you going to increase that transferability to get more people from halls involved themselves
Helen,
rather than the output?
Do you think that's a priority that you're going to see to next year?
Yeah, definitely. I think one way to maybe combat that is specific training, like giving them training that is relevant to their halls, but then training them up on our equipment as well, like LSUTV's cameras, radio stations, so they can come in and use that for their own use and their hall's use as well.
Brilliant. Okay, Mr. Carter, you've had involvement in the Media Centre, on and off, love and hate, like most things that you like to do. What do you have to say to Helen?
Well, just to clarify your point there, Connor, I stepped into the Media Centre for the first time in my life, like last week actually.
You've been
I hadn't been there until last week. I've just been sort of a remote columnist
and sort of comment editor for an independent publication, which you should all read.
Thank you for your CV, Mr.
You're welcome. Well, my question to you would be, what's your opinion on labels being muzzled during the exec elections, and what would you do to make it more free and be allowed to publish what it wanted?
A lot of people have thrown around the idea that media funded by the union is, to use Mr. Carter's term, muzzled by the union. What do you have to say to that, Helen?
Firstly, I think it's important that the relations between LS Media and the union remain good, basically because we both sort of need each other, so to speak. LS Media needs the union to keep going, and relationships are key between the two. I do see your point about how maybe some people believe that it's not great that the union sort of holds us back with publishing things beforehand, but then it builds suspense, so to speak, with elections and things like that. And then obviously we have an independent publication, and then we have Label. They're both separate things. The independent publication that we have publishes things beforehand as well. So like if students really want to know, they can go to them. Label's a separate thing altogether, really. So.
Fantastic. Chris, does that answer your question?
No. So do you think journalists who write for Label should be allowed to publish what they want, regardless of what the union says to them regarding exec elections? So I'm talking about revealing candidates before exec live reveal, for example, because this year it was revealed before by an independent publication. Is there really any point in keeping that rule in place?
I don't necessarily think so. I mean, if the union wants to keep it a secret beforehand, then because we have a live reveal, then that's the point of having a live reveal, for the candidates to be revealed live on like LSUTV, LCR, and through Label, rather than through Label articles beforehand. I don't think it's really necessarily important to reveal them before.
Okay, Mr. Constantini, you've thrown yourself into media over the past year. What do you have to say to Helen?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is much of a muchness. This is an uncontested position with your head of TV and then head of media sitting next to you. I want to ask, given some of the friction that's happened in the hierarchy of management all through media and in the wider union, how are you going to deal with that if you were to get the position?
I think it's always important in a role like that to sort of remain professional when things happen, for you to not sort of get necessarily involved too much. I think it's important that you sort of take a step back and overview what's going on and view it from there, basically. I'm not sure if you have any sort of specific examples of things like you're talking about here.
Do you think management say over the media centre, or any sort of like relationships with the media centre, how will you approach perhaps problematic areas? Do you think? I think that's what John was getting at.
I think basically it's important to just overview the situation, see what's going on, see what the problem is, see if you can solve it. If not, then maybe go to sort of other members of exec and union, see if they can help you out with resolving that issue as well. I think that's probably the way forward for that.
John, is that fair to say?
All right. Well, I'll try another way. How is this going to affect your choices of who's going to put to head of sections and stuff like that? You get to appoint them. What sort of qualities are you going to look for the people that are going to be your subordinates?
Okay. Well, for heads of sections, I think it's the main thing is just to go for the person that's most suitable for the role. Maybe the person that's had the most experience, the person who's sort of most lively in that section. I don't think necessarily you choose sort of a personality over someone in the section who's really key and vital in the role, who knows exactly what they're talking about. So I think that's the way to go with that one.
Sophie, have you got something to add?
Yeah, it's kind of just drawing on a few comments that have been made throughout when you've been sat here. And it's just kind of an overall thought about media and the fact, and you were asked about the union control over the media. I might cause a little controversy here, so I apologise. Please don't hurt me, guys. But I just feel that, I mean, you were questioned quite a lot about your opinion on the control of sort of Label and things like that, and also about the hierarchy. And something that when I was here, I started to feel, I never really said a lot about it, and it's sort of still stuck with me now, is that as much as I think, you know, the media does an incredible job and it's so professional, and that is one of the best things about it, that ultimately, like, do you think that we should sort of remember that, you know, it's a student, we're a university, and does that kind of change your opinion on whether you should have control over things and stuff like that? Like, is that, I'm not making much sense here, I'm sorry.
Now, how much autonomy should and do the students have, Helen?
Well, I think, like you said, it's important to remember that we are students. I mean, all of our volunteers are students. They have other things to do with their time. And again, like, we're a union, like, funded media centre, basically, at the end of the day. So with things like you said about live reveals and stuff, I think the whole point of them is like to work with the union together to produce excellent output for our students of the union.
Okay, Tash, all the responses flying around. What do you have to say of your experience so far? What do you have to say to them?
With this whole hierarchy thing, I think it's very important to note that everyone has to work together to get the best kind of output in everything. And I think Helen's picked up on that really well, actually. It is working together with a team. You've got a whole executive behind you working together, and media will always be a tricky one. Because there's a lot of output. It's very difficult to get the balance right, specifically in label, as the firing squad over there have picked up on. I think they've got the balance correct this year, I do, with the other publication. Yeah, that's kind of my summary of that, really.
Okay, thank you, Natasha, and thank you, Helen. Guys, give them a big round of applause.